Hi, I'm Rachel Bell. I am the co-founder and VP of Marketing and PR at Overcup Press.
My first question for you is, can you share your journey and how you started in the publishing industry?
Well, my start in the publishing industry was back in the 90s, and I worked at a group of magazines known as Adweek. And Adweek was a group of trade publications for the advertising, marketing, and media industries. So that's when I really got my first taste of publishing in the magazine format. And then when I married my husband, Patrick McDonald, he was actively getting a master's degree in publishing from the PSU publishing program. And after he finished the program, he was very excited to put what he learned into practice. So we partnered together, and that's when we launched Overcup Press.
What does a typical day in your role look like?
Oh, I wish there was a typical day, but my general day looks like working with authors on questions they may have, doing royalty statements once a quarter. My role also includes working with intern teams who work with us to get their own information and knowledge about publishing. I have meetings with clients for our specialty publishing program, because we do, in addition to traditionally released and distributed trade publications, we also do custom publishing work for some clients. And then meetings, of course, with internal team members, and then a lot of review of stuff like social media, press releases that are going out, and just basically taking care of all of the back office part of the business as well.
Do you have a special project or achievement you're particularly proud of with Overcup Press?
So I am so proud of all of the books that we've put out into the world. We hold them very dearly because we don't release a lot of books every year. But there are some projects that I'm particularly proud of, and a lot of that is how we get the word out about our authors and their titles. So what I'm particularly proud of is during the beginning days of COVID, we had a book that came out in May of that year. And, the world was really focused on a lot of other things, but we were able to create a lot of different partnerships during that time. One of them includes a book bundle that I worked with Ellie Blue from Microcosm Press, and we put together a book bundle of different local publishing companies' books that have come out during the COVID time that customers could order, and they would get a sampling of books from, I think it was 7 different publishing companies that are based in the Portland area. We got coverage in the Independent Magazine, which is a magazine from the Independent Book Publishers Association. We also got coverage in a local newspaper and in a local business journal. So I'm really proud of that achievement, because it was a time when people didn't have a lot to be excited about, but we managed to get a lot of publishers very excited about this project.
My next question is, what skills do you believe are important for someone entering the publishing industry to have?
I think that in some ways it depends on their position and what they're looking to do in the book publishing world. But I think that curiosity is good. It's not necessarily, it is a skill. It's a soft skill. So being curious about what's going on in a particular industry, reading up on what's going on, staying engaged in news and real timely news about what's happening in that industry. And I think in terms of skills, some of them are the same skills I think that you would have for any job. So I think that it's the responsibility for anyone starting a new career to really try to be effective immediately. So how can you make an impact in your team or with your boss from day one? And some of that, I think, goes back again to the curiosity, asking questions, getting clarification, being a good listener, and understanding that publishing is constantly shifting, like most industries are, and understanding that what you learn on day one might look a little different by year 20 if you're in this industry. So being flexible and not being super rigid about that's the only way I learned how to do this. So just be open to change, because change is constant.
I see that a lot too. Everything's always changing, especially nowadays. So my next question is, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in your publishing career and how have you overcome them?
Right. And I think that the position you start out in or the department you start out in might not be the department where you spend the majority of your career. So keep that in mind and be curious and be watchful and interested in what's going on in other departments within your organization.
My next question is, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your publishing career and how have you overcome them?
So I think that as a small publisher, and I define that as a company that publishes, typically less than 100 books a year. We publish 2 to 3. So we're very small. And it's just adjusting to scale. So prior to starting my own publishing company, I'd worked for some very big companies. And what happens when you have 100 employees, if it's very different when you are basically employee, one of 2 or whatever the case may be. I'm really not even an employee, but a partner. So I think that, understanding all of the ins and outs and the language and phrasing that gets used in the publishing company is something that was really important to understand, like how you speak to your distributor, how you speak to your author, understanding a lot about the mechanics of book layout and design is also very important. And some of that, I really overcame based on doing a lot of reading, finding a mentor in the publishing industry who could answer these questions for me was always a very helpful thing. And joining a trade association. So I became a member of a trade association called Pub West, which is mostly small to medium-sized publishers throughout the United States. And I also became a member at that time of the Independent Book Publishers Association because they operate on a much smaller scale than some of the larger publishing companies people might be familiar with. And one of the biggest challenges that I faced in my publishing career was really understanding how cash flow works in the publishing business. I think that most people don't understand how long it takes for distributors to pay publishers and then how you manage that by paying your authors as well. I really overcame that by reading, connecting. Yeah.
Very good. So my next question for you is, what do you see as the greatest opportunities for growth in the
So I
publishing
think that
industry
what
right now?
I see for some of the greatest opportunities are AI, but not the way you think. I don't see AI as something that is going to help you write your book. But I do think that AI can do a lot of research for you when it comes to comparable titles. I think it can do a lot of great things. I think it will help speed up production of books in some ways. And the other opportunity I'm really seeing is that print on demand has become so much better. The books that get printed on really short runs, so 1 book at a time, 500 books at a time, the quality and the cost have really improved. And I think that gives us an opportunity to think about just-in-time inventory. And I think that people who want to be in the logistics part of publishing are really, really well poised to learn and really help publishing get over one of its biggest challenges, which is how many books do you print? And how many books are you destroying because you don't sell them, which is not very environmentally friendly. So I think greenifying the publishing industry is a great opportunity for the industry right now.
My next is, what industry trends are you currently keeping an eye on?
I am currently keeping an eye on multiple trends. I'm keeping an eye on the recent strike that we saw at Penguin Random House and how that plays out in terms of how publishing employees are moving forward in their jobs. I'm keeping an eye on lots of different potential acquisitions that are happening in the publishing world, and also just keeping an eye on where and how books are sold. So during 2021, 2022, et cetera, a lot of books were really making their way into non-bookstores. And I'm not just talking about gift books and what you would normally see. So where are people placing books, and how are people using what they learned during the early days of COVID to put books in front of the reader, meet the reader where they are, I guess is the best way to say that. I'm also thinking about AI and how all of that is playing out. Right now, Amazon has implemented some technology that really spots AI written ebooks to keep the volume down. They don't want to just take on lots of AI written books, which I do not blame them. I think that's a great idea. Intellectual property is a big thing that's happening right now because of AI. There's been a lot of things I'm keeping my eye on in terms of publishing employees uploading an entire manuscript into AI and using it to perform certain functions. What happens with that AI if it's public, how you're protecting the author's intellectual property. Those are all things I'm really keeping an eye on in 2023.
AI, as I said before, AI is like a big thing right now.
It's touching every industry.
How has the publishing industry changed since you've been a part of it? I'm sure that AI has
it's gotten both smaller and bigger. So by that, I mean that the big companies have gotten bigger through merger and acquisition. And a lot of small to medium-sized publishing companies have basically gone out of business. And that's a big concern to me because you want a large variety of titles that come out from all different points of view. And the more that the publishing industry shrinks on the small side of publishing, the less diversity we get in books. And the bigger the big guys get, the more we see a lot of the same types of books. So it's changed quite a bit since I've started. And I think that is reflected on the shelves of your local library and local bookstores.
My next question is, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in the publishing industry?
Well, I touched on that a little bit before, but I'll just say that know who you're working for and the types of books that they're publishing. Understand how the organization is set up. Take a look at the org chart. You know, what are the different divisions within that publishing company? I would say talk to someone who's worked in the publishing industry, whether it's through an introduction through someone you can find on LinkedIn who might have worked at that particular publishing company in the past, and read the trades, you know, Publishers Weekly, take a look at Publishers Lunch. That's really going to give you a great idea, as well as, you know, look at social media of people who are publishers or people who work in big positions at larger publishing companies. What are they talking about? And, you know, learn from that. So again, be curious, and I think it's just still going to take you a long way in understanding if this is the right career path for you.
Thank you. And then I have one last question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, I'm going to keep that to business advice that I've received. And some of the best business advice I received many years ago, which I try to implement, is whenever I reach out to someone to ask them for some help or support when it comes to our business, is also to be reciprocal, to offer to help them when they need it, make introductions for them. And, you know, basically when you have a meeting like that where you're trying to glean information from someone, make sure that you're open to returning the favor, that the person knows you're returning the favor. And that just makes a huge deal because, you know, time is one of the most expensive and hardest commodities that a very busy, successful executive has.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of my interview. I really appreciate you talking.
Yeah, thanks for all the great questions.